Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar for the Opt-in Manager. Couple of things. As you know, we're on GoToWebinar, so we can't unmute you, but I will be monitoring all the questions, so please put them in there, and then I'll interrupt Ken as we go along. And with that, Ken, I'll pass it over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Vic. So, we've done some recent GoToWebinar or GoToWebinar presentations on the Opt-in Manager, but I wanted to really gear this one towards resellers and kind of go through, the use case, go through, some of the conversation points, some of the pain points, those kinds of things, before we get into, the how-to part of it. So, the first thing is, what is the need? Okay, I mean, we all understand it at a fairly high level, but really anyone that is planning to start marketing the reopening of their business, their pandemic service policies, or even general notices during this time needs an accurate, well-scrubbed list. Okay, so we've got a lot of people that are really chafing at the bit to get back to work, and there's nothing that's going to trip that effort up more than if they are trying to market to a bad list. And there's some technical reasons to be careful with that. And let's kind of go through this. So why is good list hygiene important? Well, if they use their own mail servers, and again, this isn't going to be focused strictly on AMA. This is going to be, as it applies to however they market. But if they use their own mail servers, there is a risk of blacklisting or even a reduced sender reputation. This is something that we're painfully familiar with, even ourselves, because one of our customers' email accounts got hacked on the weekend, sent out a few thousand emails, and we got blacklisted. Okay, and it's a difficult process because the blacklisting happens instantly. And even though it happens instantly, it can take days or weeks to delist. And in those cases, you literally can't email anyone, from those domains that are subscribing to those blacklists. Okay, and then the bad sender reputation. This is going to hit our sender reputation. So the more likely that we send someone, even if they've whitelisted us, it's more likely that those are going to end up in junk folders. Again, reducing the visibility and the openability there. Okay. Now that's if you're using your own mail service. If you use an ESP, internet service or email service provider like SendGrid, MailGrid, or let's even talk about AMA, bounce rates in excess of 5% can lead to account suspension or even termination if it persists. I can tell you now that Billy's joined our staff, we are now getting copied on account suspension notifications where anyone gets a sustained bounce rate of over 5%. If that persists, those accounts risk cancellations. Okay, now when you're talking about cancellations of a $948 service or a $2,400 service or a $5,000 service, okay, the cost to avoid such risks become really, really low. Okay, and the fourth point I wanted to make out is just simple compliance. Now, I don't expect this to resonate with a lot of people in the United States because CAN spam is still the rule of law, and it has been for 17 years. But up here in Canada, with the Canadian anti-spam legislation, otherwise known as CASL, or even in the GDPR, or the UK with the GDPR, the rules are much, much more stringent. And believe it or not, a lot of the penalties for frequent offenders climb into the millions. Okay, I know when Castle first came out, the penalty for repeat offenders was $4 million. Okay, and then by 2017, they increased the flexibility of the legislation so that people wouldn't rely on the backlog of cases. They actually empowered people that were hit by spam to go to launch civil suits directly against the offenders. So, the people that thought, go ahead, try to get me, when they know that there's 3,000 cases in backlog, suddenly didn't have that assurance anymore because they knew that they hit one disgruntled user, okay, that, they didn't give permission to. They can seek civil action against them directly, okay, in which case there is no backlog. I can tell you that in Canada, Kellogg's was fined for over $50,000 in the first year of Castle, and that was considered a slap on the wrist. GDPR, I know some Americans may think, well, GDPR, that's a UK issue. I'm not living in the UK. I can't be governed by their legislation. That's actually not true. As we learned, in 2018, the GDPR actually can impose penalties against international offenders as long as they're hitting the inboxes of their residents, of their citizens. So, please take note that this information is extremely important. Not just, and I'm not just saying all of this to educate you guys, in terms of the laws in this, but knowing this information and presenting it to the customers, so in a way that they're both aware of and alarmed by, okay, is going to make your job a little easier if you're trying to motivate people that generally don't care. Okay, so think about this: when you're facing the loss of hundreds or even thousands of dollars in lost services, specifically AMA, and then millions of dollars in fines, or even the ability to send a regular email to many of your customers for days or weeks at a time, think about the justification for good list hygiene. Okay, that should be really easy. Okay, how can we justify making this a priority? Well, think about the cost of not making it a priority. And then when you present them, the solution is $10 a month and will save you tons of time compared to manual processes that normally achieve less, then the cost justification should really become a lot easier. Okay, so let's scroll down here and review some of the questions that we're going to cover. So I've covered the good list hygiene, bounces, reduced return, compliance. Let's talk about who are we marketing to, okay? Because this is important. This is an ACT add-on product, but it's important to note that there's two of them. So the first thing is that the people that can use this are any ACT Windows user with version 16 or newer. Okay, and as we all know, because of Protexis, this really makes it like version 18.2 or newer. Okay, and the best part is it's Pro or Premium can subscribe to the opt-in manager for Windows. Okay, and they can either be on ACT subscription or off plan using perpetual licenses. It doesn't make a difference. Okay, so that's the Windows version. The web version that leverages the API. Okay, anyone that is a hosted customer, and I'm going to do a quick run through of both of them. Anyone that's a hosted customer using 18.2 or higher, and these are people with no access to the Windows client, they can still run the opt-in manager for web. Okay, anyone that's using 18.2 or higher is eligible, and we always recommend the latest API. I can tell you after last year, you want to make sure that you've got the latest API because it just seemed like they were constantly breaking it. Okay, and then the last audience is really anyone that's doing any e-marketing. Okay, even with Outlook. Okay, as I demonstrated, whether you're using an ESP or you're using your own mail service, there's no justification for forging ahead without regard for list hygiene because the consequences can be really, really high. Okay, so let's now analyze the sales opportunities. Okay, so let's identify, as resellers, why do we care? Okay, like I'm not asking you guys to go out and sell our software to make the world a better place or keystroke more money. Let's think about how this enables you to look better and make more money to your customers. First of all, the odds are they're not aware of the opt-in manager. You guys have access to a ton of ACT users that we will never have access to. So first, with some of the points that I made earlier, you're going to identify the need to your customer and then fill it. Okay, you're reselling the software. Okay, and then you're going to get ongoing residual commissions. I don't expect you guys at $120 a year to drop everything and sell it, but in conjunction with everything else and some of the doors that it opens in terms of service opportunities, this is worth doing. Okay, and I'm just going to flip over and show you, here is the options that we offer. So you've got the Windows do-it-yourself, you've got the setup assistance. We recommend you sell the setup assistant version to all of your customers, not our setup assistants, but you get familiar with it and you say, here's $200. This is what the publisher sells. You can sell this for $200, do a quick setup, okay, and then keep all the extra revenue for yourself. And then the web API do-it-yourself is also at $120. Okay. Now, what's really nice, and you don't even have to tell any of your customers this, is that because this is a subscription, when you go to our license renewal tool on our website and select Opt-in Manager, you paste in the code that you get, okay, and then you click on Validate. You can, if you renew it on time, you can actually save another 10% on your cost. So you can either pass that those savings on to your customer, or keep that for yourself. Okay, however you do it, it's all going to be based on the the degree that your customer doesn't want to get their hands dirty. Okay, so there represents, you get the setup fee. Okay, plus when you are running, and I'm going to get into the hands-on portion of marketing the campaigns, you can actually even run the campaigns for them, like run the consent campaigns, run the email validations campaigns, and making revenue that way. Okay, and I'll go through the process of this, but just think about why is $120 product. We don't expect anyone to care about $120 product, but if it cements you as a gatekeeper, if it cements you as an authority and introducing technology that they would never otherwise be aware of, that is of value to you. Okay, and then you can also do things like you can resell the Brightway fees. I'm going to get into that later and show you how you can make money that way. Okay, and then if you're selling the API, or you're selling even the Windows version, the fact that you can provide such a thorough scrubbing and validation service within Act is going to create additional stickiness with Act. We know that there are other competitive CRM products out there that provide that. Okay, and we don't want to lose a single customer because the base product doesn't. Okay, and what you can do is now, during these pandemic times, we've been doing a ton of stuff for free, tons of training, weekly webinars and things like that. You can even choose, I'm going to leave this up obviously to you guys, but you can even choose to waive any of these low touch services during the pandemic and use it as an opportunity to kind of increase that customer commitment. Okay, so just want to bring that up. Now let's go over to some simple sales opening questions, and once we're done these, we're going to start doing the demo. So the sales opening question that I always would start with was, when was the last time you validated the email addresses in your database? When was the time before that, if they've ever done it? Okay, now the moment that you ask a question like that and they automatically will start realizing that they don't, or they do it ad hoc, then the ad hoc method provides all, I respond to bounces, or customers email me and I update it that way. Okay, so that is a completely reactive way of doing it, and requires massive human intervention in each and every case. That's not very reliable, nor is it very sustainable. Okay, the next question you ask is, do you rely on implicit or explicit permissions to email your contacts? Okay, implicit being like, well, they bought something off me, or they filled out a form, or they participated in a webinar like this, and therefore they got implied permission. Okay, when did you get that implied permission, or that implicit permission? Well, I don't know. Okay, were you aware that in most cases, under most legislations, implicit permissions seldom last more than 6 months? That kind of, we all heard about the FUD selling technique, fear, uncertainty, and dread. When you take something that they have falsely relied upon and exposed its vulnerability, they're going to listen harder, and they're going to be much more interested in a solution. Explicit permission is what they should be going for, okay? Because then explicit permission has to be explicitly revoked, okay? Implicit permission is time limited, okay? The next question is, what is your current bounce rate with your distribution list? And they're going to say, well, I don't know. Well, your email service provider must have it, like AMA has it, or SendGrid, or what percentage of those bounces would reflect in your database of contacts? Is it 10%, 15%, 20%? Gets them thinking. They actually don't know, because they're server side suppressed, right? So they don't always have an immediate reconciliation. Now ask them this: even if you knew it and you changed from SendGrid to MailJet, or MailJet to AMA, how are you going to bring those over? Now, there's technical ways. You guys may even know how to do it, okay? But they're not going to immediately know. This is why it's important to keep that information in your database, so that if you are suppressing things on the client side, then you know that regardless of your ESP, that's going to carry forward to your next service provider. This is what Opt-in Manager does. It doesn't rely on any third-party services to update your database. It basically helps craft your dynamic groups, your targeted groups in your own database. Okay. And then the last question, I would ask them actually, in terms of the, I talked about when they email with the Outlook blast, because a lot of the times they will get bounces that come back into their inbox, and those will go into junk. So they actually frequently will never even get visibility on that. But let's push past that. Okay. On a very general level, how does it work? Okay. The email verification is very, very simple. What it does is we use the Bright Verify API. Now, Bright Verify, I'm going to show you that page in a minute, to reconcile the email address data in ACT with their online database of valid emails. There's no exporting or importing required that you would have to do if you didn't have this kind of integration. Okay, it simply updates a drop-down character field that the Opt-in Manager creates in your database. And the drop-down values are valid, invalid, accept all, or unknown. Okay. Now should be a quick relief. They may not even have thought of this, but you want to make sure that you're conveying this. No email address field data is ever overwritten. So you don't have to delete email addresses or anything like that. You're updating another field in the database that allows you to control how those contacts get populated in your marketing groups. Okay. The API connects the two databases, updates the contact records, and then charges the card it has on file for the number of records updated. Now, as I've said in the past, okay, and we're just going to quickly pivot over to Bright Verify. Okay, bring this over here. The Bright Verify website, once you click on sign in and you create an account, you got to put in your credit card right away. Okay, and when you put in your credit card right away, it's going to generate an API. I can't go in and show it because it automatically shows our API. And then quite frankly, once you see our API, then it's pretty much like a credit card that you can run for anyone. But be very, very careful with how you dispense this, because when you paste in the API, then essentially you're giving that user or that customer license to validate as many emails on their database as possible. So you really want to have a hands-on control with the customer, or you can even use their own credit card. Okay, so there's less risk for you. The benefit of using yours is that you can actually mark up. If it's 1 cent per lead or a little bit less, how much you have to mark it up if you're doing this for thousands and thousands of contacts, okay, before you can actually make a couple of bucks. Okay, it's not that much. So even if you charge 1.5 cents, suddenly you're getting a 50% markup, okay, and you can make hundreds of dollars if it's a bigger database. So just keep that in mind, but be very, very careful with whom you use this with. It's got to be a trusted customer, otherwise you're going to be finding yourself out a lot of money and then trying to collect it back again. Okay, and the last part of the scrubbing is the Opt-in Manager. Now, the way that the Opt-in Manager works is it generates a unique link, and the way that it tracks it back to that contact is it appends the actual contact GUID. Okay, so that when the person clicks on that link, they don't see, and I'll show you how that works. They don't see the contact GUID in it. They just see the hyperlink. They click on it, and then it will open up a page that looks very, very normal. And then they're not going to see in the address link that there's this 32 alphanumeric character field, okay, at the end of it. They're not going to understand that that's connected to it. But when they update it, that's going to get recorded in the database on the server, and then when you download it, that gets removed from our server and updates your database automatically. Okay, absolutely no work is done on your part, and we're going to quickly do a demo of that. So with that, I want to get into the demo of the software. Okay, so here's a contact that I just created. Bronwyn always calls me Kenjamin, so this seemed like an easy pick. So I created this contact with a valid email. So the two fields that you're going to be working with is email status. Okay, so accept all, invalid, unknown, valid. Okay, and then I called ours Castle, but it's actually, we've got contact permission. okay? And we've got accepted or denied, okay? So those are the only two fields that this is going to modify. And all of you guys are resellers. I'm not going to get into how to modify groups and things like that. All of you guys know at least as much as I do on that point. So we're not going to really cover that. You can certainly relay that information to your customers, okay? And also charge for the management of those groups as well, okay? But let's get into the Opt-in Manager. So when you install it, it creates this little drop down, okay? And we're going to get into the Opt-in Manager settings, okay? Now that was our license key, and then here you set the permission, okay? Contact permission, I'm going to say create, okay? And then it will create that field, and it will create the drop downs that are indicated here, okay? It doesn't have to be accepted and denied. It can be in a different language. It could be whichever. You know, you can set that, and it will create the fields accordingly, okay? The email settings, okay? The email settings, why do you need these in here? You need this in there because this will be using your mail server settings, okay, to send the emails. Make no bones about that. You're not going to use AMA as the canary in the cave, okay? You want to use your own mail servers to send out the initial scrubbing. But remember, you're not going to do the consents first. You're going to do the email verifications first. But this is the order in which it's displayed, so I'm just going to cover that first. So the first step will always be email verification, and then it's going to be the consent request. So then email delivery, okay? This is where we've got features like within our own merge mail. You can control delay each email by 4 seconds, or split them up into batches of 25 and then 30 seconds after that. Okay, and then here's the Bright Verify integration. So you can see the email address status field, okay, and then you can see the API key. Now, as you can see here, you can actually create it with this button. Goes without saying, especially to all of the people in attendance, that you obviously can't do this with an RDB. Okay, but that's the general field, the total configuration settings here. Okay, and then you're able to get going, okay? Now, to send an email, you click on send an email, and up pops this screen. So what I've done is I've made it very, very simple, okay? I've controlled the subject line, the hyperlink text, okay? And then here's my email signature, and then I put in my own text. Now, typically we just have this in as our default text, but you can edit this. Now, you're going to get people that are saying, well, I'd like to use our own stationery, I'd like to have graphics and all of that. Tell them that this is the first point that you are sending out to people, and you want it to get through. It has to hit the inboxes. And sending out a text-only email provides the highest percentage of deliverability. So just explain to people this is not marketing. And in fact, really quite the opposite. When you're crafting this text, because you are strictly making a compliance request, you are not subject to any normal compliance reprisals. So let's say that you hit someone inbox and they said, oh, I've told you I never want to get an email from you again. As long as you're asking for permission, you can never be subject. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I've read enough to know that this is not the intended target of the legislation, of any of the legislations, CAN-SPAM, CASL, or GDPR. So if you don't include any kind of marketing, now if you use this as a thinly veiled marketing attempt, like we'd like to keep permission we'd like your permission to stay in contact because we have this great sale on, you're on your own, okay? You're basically using this as a thinly veiled marketing attempt, and that's not what it's designed for. So keep this very, very purpose focused. You're just looking to get consent, okay? Now, all of this is fairly standard, and now I'm just going to click on send email, and you've got the standard option, current contact, current lookup, or on all contacts. I trust I don't have to explain never to use this third option, but I'm going to click on this. Okay, send one, and now it's going to go. Okay, and you're going to get a little progress bar that runs across the bottom here. Okay, and now it's done. Now, I don't have to pull up Outlook and see it, because watch what else I can do. Generate a unique link. This copies it to the clipboard automatically. Now, why would this be useful? Well, let's say someone didn't get it, okay, and they just reply and say, send me a link, I didn't get it. You can just simply say, generate, copy that, okay, and see how see this look. You can see here that everything after here, the good, is the unique contact GUID, okay? So here, okay, and here's my simple message, okay? Now, obviously, this would include, this is all customizable, this screen is customizable, so you have the ability to put in your customers' messaging here, but this is what you want. You want something as simple and clear cut, green good, red bad. So now we click on opt-in. Thank you for submitting it, and it's done. Okay, so let's go back to our act record. Okay, here's the castle one. Now, you've got the ability to update lists in one of two ways. One is manually, okay, update contacts. Now you can see, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see my finger, but you can see how this is empty. Okay, now let's click on update and see it down here. It's updating the record. And now you can automatically see, in this case, 6 contacts, because I ran a campaign recently. Okay, you can see that this is automatically updated. Okay, so that's how simple that is. But I kind of blew the order here because I said that the email verification should come first. So, kind of screwed that up, but let's proceed. Let's say I want to verify this. Okay, and I'm going to say email verification using Bright Verify. So opt-in manager, email verification using Bright Verify, and current contacts, same menu choices. Okay, now I'm going to click on OK. Remember, here's the field. Okay, 1 contacts were updated. See, I just had to do a refresh, and now that's valid. How simple is that? I've just sent out, now this is one, obviously we wouldn't build software around doing this one at a time, but imagine if you were doing this thousands at a time. Okay, the first verification, you're thousands at a time, and now all of these addresses are updated. Okay, or not the addresses, but the address status field is updated, and now you can build it into your dynamic groups and make it a condition that this field must equal valid. You don't want to put contain valid because that will cover invalid as well. So you say equals valid, and now your groups are going to include only valid email addresses. Now you pass that on to your customer, that's going to come as a tremendous relief, knowing that you've suddenly, magically, within minutes, distilled their list down to deliverable email addresses. Okay, and you've done so, as I said, in minutes that would otherwise have taken a ton of hours, okay, and a ton of labor, which normally makes it time and cost prohibitive. As we're trying to ramp up during this pandemic period, we've got a lot of people that want to just get their doors open again. Okay, they want to get their doors open. They want to promote, we're back in business. This is what we're offering our customers, blah, blah, blah. If there is a speed bump that stands between them and these promotions, I promise you they're not going to do it. So they're going to forge forward into their marketing with a poorly scrubbed list, and then it's going to blow back on them in ways that we've already discussed, and that's going to reduce their reliance or their comfort in both ACT and any of the email service providers that they're using, specifically AMA. That can represent hundreds of dollars a year, or even thousands of dollars a year in lost revenue, depending on the account size. So think about how simple this process was to avoid that. Okay, so let's quickly show you what the API was. So here's Opt-in Manager Web. Now let's go through. We've got, here's the API address. Here's the database name. Here's my login. Here's my password. Just going to click on cancel here. Okay. And then I've got the email blast, send emails, the same kind of options. Edit emails, Bright Verify, verify using Bright Verify. And again, it's going to allow you to work with a hosted database. So you can run this on a computer that doesn't even have ACT installed. Then you've got the same kind of update contacts, and then you've got your settings. Now, the second that you click on settings, it's going to update you, okay? And then it's going to log you into the API, and then it's going to run you through this, okay? So now you've got your standard email settings, the history settings, Bright Verify integration, and then updates. Okay, all of the same stuff that we just went through, and it can run on any Windows computer. Okay, without even installed. So I've been talking for about 30 minutes now. Vic always complains that I don't breathe and talk at the same time, allowing anyone to ask questions or him to interrupt me. So I will pause now and see if there's any questions.
There are no questions today.
Wow, I must be going fast. How am I doing on slowing down, Vic? Am I whole?
No, yeah, no,
so
it's a bit better.
So much better than the past. Okay.
Yes.
So just kind of reviewing, and let's actually just kind of go through, what the process is like. So if we were to go to, okay, here's the opt-in manager. Okay, optinmanagement.com. Okay, now when you are in there, in this section, okay, and you click on validate or create account, it will bring you to that page. Okay, now let's see what that looks like. Okay, I'm going to click on register. You're just going to register these, your email and password. Okay, and as you get logged in, I'm going to go actually log in instead. Okay, let's see if that's, don't know if I have that memorized here. And I'll go to Google.
Brian Pearson just has a suggestion. He says, I recommend that his customers sign up for Bright Verify for themselves, easy to connect to their account.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Like I'm not even saying that you guys should be, using this as a way of marketing it up. I'm just explaining all the different revenue opportunities you've got for it. I'm far more comfortable telling people that they should. Okay, that they should, put their own customers' credit cards in, because the last thing you want to do is be writing a blank check for your customers. Okay. It's not here. Okay, so I am in. Okay. So now, if I want to manage the account, let's go into the opt-in manager web settings. Okay, here's the key that you get. Now, when you create that key, okay, with the opt-in manager, when you go in here and you create the account, you copy this, you will paste that into your opt-in manager. Okay, either the Windows or the web version. Now, one of the things that I noticed is that keystroke.ca, putting the company name with the logo here, that was a bit redundant. So actually, I'm just going to keystroke.ca, and then with the URL, that was a bit redundant. You get to choose your own file, of course, and then here's where you select your text. It's really that easy. Managing account. Okay, change your passwords. There's not a lot there. Okay, but this is it. Like, there's not a whole lot of settings to kind of go through. Okay, what you saw on the Windows and what you see on the web is really all you need. And you can spend like literally 2 minutes setting this up for your customer, but all they know is that when they log in, when the customers click on the links, they're going to see something completely customized. Okay.
Okay, so Brian elaborated a bit. First, he apologized for doesn't type as fast as he thinks, which we all know. So you didn't need to apologize, Brian. But the question is it easy for them to connect? Our customer will be opting in and out of your web server, not following that completely, he said. So using your web server is what I'm asking.
Okay, so are you wondering about that, like when you're going to the optinmanager.com or optinmanagement.com? Yes, that is a server that we're hosting, but I want you to think of what information is being stored and for how long. So the only thing that is going to be stored on our server on a database is the contact GUID and the response. And not unlike handheld contact, the moment that you make that update request, that actually gets deleted. Okay, now that's extremely important that that you're aware of that, because GDPR is as much about privacy as it is about consent. So, if anyone says, well, what about this? Where's all this information being stored? The contact GUID and the response cannot be considered a privacy violation, especially if it's transitory. Okay, if it's very, very temporary and it's just to complete the transaction. Okay, now let's even take a look at the history. Okay, you can see here, it recorded the history of me sending out the permission. Okay, and then it recorded the history of it being accepted. Okay, so you can see all of this information. Okay, now if you ever get audited or you ever get sued or you ever any kind of action is brought against you, all of this information you can easily use in your defense to say, hey, I didn't just update this field myself. This is what happened. Here was the transaction ID. Now, one of the differences between our Castle product and the GDPR product is the Castle product used to actually record the IP address of where the person provided the consent. So you would have that additional link back to the person providing the permission. GDPR actually described that as a privacy violation, so we had to remove that feature from the transaction stamp. Okay, so other than that, it's the exact same as the Castle, and in addition to the email verification that we added. Okay, and then the last thing you could see in history is that it was changed to accepted. Okay, so you can see very, very clearly this is a brand new contact record. All of these were updated by the program literally during this webinar. Okay, any other questions?
No. The other thing you can point out, Ken, where it says, I don't know if you did, I was looking at the questions, where it says Castle accepted automatically populates that part of your database as well.
Yeah, that was part of the demo that you're probably looking at the questions then. When we updated it, I literally showed them how this went from blank to accepted. Okay,
Thank
now
you.
where you put this on your layout obviously is up to you. Our software just creates the field as well as this. It obviously can't add it to the layout, but everyone knows that. Okay,
All right.
so one more step.
One more question. One last try on Bright Verify. If it's their account, how does that get set up in the desktop application of Opt-in Manager?
Oh, very simple. It's under the settings. Okay. The Bright Verify, you paste it in right here. Okay, so all you do is you say, what's the email address field? Okay, the email address status field, and then you create it, and then you paste in the API key here. And then that's it. With the software will then connect with the Bright Verify API saying, please let me in, here's my API key. If there's a corresponding account, boom, you're in. And the same configuration options exist in the web.
All right, thank you. One more question. How much time would you suggest we tell a client that it takes for us to set this up for them? 1 to 2 hours?
I would say, yeah, 1 to 2 hours. Everyone charges differently. Some people kind of charge per job. Some people charge, kind of ranges. Don't do it for less than an hour because people won't appreciate it. I also like the idea of selling it as the delivered solution like we have on our website that I showed you. Okay, where you provide the setup assistance, and then we just basically charge an extra $80 for that. Okay, and you can do that, or you can just say, here's the cost of the software, here's the cost of my time.
All right, thank you.
When you consider that when you log into our website, you're getting this on margin. Okay, and then you can charge, you get, depending on your reseller rate, typically 25%. You're going to get 25% off of that, so $30 here, and then the margin. For a small transaction, you're easily going to make over $100.
Excellent. If you send a customer a sign up for Bright Verify, make sure they wait until Opt-in Manager is installed. Otherwise, you need to import the CSV files that BV generates, Bright Verify generates. So that was just a comment by Steve. And another question, are these directions written down somewhere? Do we have a user guide, Ken?
I believe we've got under the kb.keystroke.ca or the kb.actforwork.com, all the setup instructions are there.
Excellent, thank you.
So again, just to repeat, kb.keystroke.ca or kb.actforwork.com. www.act4work.com. Now, the reason we've got it in both is we're trying to make this as white labeled for you guys as possible.
Excellent. Any more questions?
So the other big thing that I've mentioned in a lot of the advertising and promoting for this is our regular price for this was $200 a year. We've dropped it down to $10 a month, billed annually, to make this as simple to present as possible. Who cannot justify, given all of the cost implications, all the penalties, all the the blacklisting, reduced sender reputation, and not even be able to send emails in many cases, when there's a $10 a month remedy. Okay, like when you present that, it should be one of those impulse purchases that are done automatically. Now, the nice thing is this isn't just a one-off. One of the questions that I asked is, in terms of the sales opportunity, when was the last time that you scrubbed your database? Checked email addresses, got consent. Okay, when was the time before that? Often these efforts, these scrubbing efforts, because they're so manual, they're generally perceived as one-offs. Well, if we can take hours and hours and hours of work and reduce it into a couple of minutes that you can run each and every month, why wouldn't you say for $10 a month, just create a group that doesn't have any information in either of those fields, the validity fields or the consent fields, or just even focus on consent and keep sending out until you get consents just once a month. Create little campaigns, okay? And then as you get consent, again, explicit permission doesn't expire, okay? So you'll be able to keep marketing to them, but really couch it in terms of an ongoing maintenance process. These guys, they want to, they'll see it as kind of like, oh, thanks for making it a quick speed bump so I don't have to worry about it, get it out of the way. You've got to say, okay, that's great, I know you're in a hurry, but understand that this is something that's going to take a couple of minutes per month.
And what we described as something is it's like buying critical insurance. You just pay for it every month, and you got to make sure that it runs properly. So that's just another way of putting it there.
I've actually, what I've done is we've deliberately talked about list maintenance as hygiene. Okay, and there's a reason that we picked that. Good list hygiene. Well, everyone can kind of laugh and suggest, well, I don't have a shower, and then say, okay, I'm done. I don't ever need a shower again. Okay, hygiene is maintenance. Okay, and that applies as much in terms of your distribution list as anywhere else. So couch it in terms of hygiene, maintenance, whichever. This should be looked at as a $10 a month solution that even on renewal, that is, if they renew it on time, that drops down to less than that because they'll get 10% for on-time renewals. Okay, so
all right. Sorry, a couple more questions, Ken.
Go ahead.
If we wanted you to handle the setup, how would that work without exposing the client relationship on our end?
You basically buy the setup assistance. Okay, like here, you buy that, and you make sure that you're listing yourself as during the checkout process. And I've demonstrated, I'm not going to spend any time kind of walking through the checkout process, but this is how simple it is. Proceed. Okay, and then you just make sure that your name is selected here. Okay, and then we will make sure that that we contact you afterwards, and we're working with that person. And you can even follow up with us by email and say, kindly reach out, and we'll keep it as white labeled as possible. And
then what exactly does this setup assistant do?
So what we do is we'll set up the software, whether it's for Windows or for web. We will require them, we may need your assistance in some of their information, like we're not going to have their login information and things like that. So we'll leave it as much as you can provide us that information to complete it. We'll go through all of that. The one thing that we'll obviously discuss with you is the API information for Bright Verify. We're not putting in our credit card information there, so we'll ask you to either get that from the customer or provide it on your own. But we'll complete the setup once we have it.
All right, Ken, can you just pull up on your screen the two addresses for the user guides for the Act for Work and the other one, please?
kb.actforwork.com. opt.com, and then just type in opt. Okay, and where is it here? Okay, so you've got Mail Manager, how to create opt-in links, templates, contact opt-in permissions in the database, opt-in manager, web feature tour, updating opt. So there's quite a few. You just keep searching and you'll come across quite a few articles. Okay, but we've got a fair bit, and we do have a lot under Mail Manager because opt-in manager is part of Mail Manager, but it's the same program inside of a larger program. So any of the information that you get from that, you'll be able to apply to opt-in manager by itself.
And one more question. Somebody said, I missed what the Bright House charges are.
Okay, the Bright Verify is 1 cent per contact. So if they give you, if it indicates that it is a valid, invalid, accept all, and for anyone that isn't aware, an accept all is kind of like a wild card, so anything at keystroke.ca, or unknown. If they update the record with any of those parameters, that's going to cost you a penny.
Excellent. That's it for the questions.
Excellent. Okay. So thank you very much, guys. We're going to record this. We're going to edit it a little bit, but we're going to record this and we're going to post it on the KQC resellers channel. So look for that in the next 24 hours. But thank you for attending. I hope you guys found this useful. I personally think, and I'm not saying this because I'm just trying to shill for the product, but I really think that this is a perfect, simple, inexpensive tool that does a lot for the customer and creates a lot of stickiness with the product. I honestly think that if you tried to market without this, you're going to eventually lose the customer to other CRMs that have more features this way. No one's going to use AMA as the canary in the cave for opt-outs or opt-ins because that's going to, the moment that you start using it, that's going to register on your bounce or your opt-outs. Okay, so you want to have a tool before then.
All right, one more question that came in, Ken. Does Mail Manager also have a setup assistant option?
Yes, it does. Yep. So basically, opt-in manager is $10 a month. Mail Manager is $20 a month. But Mail Manager obviously has the publisher tools. It's got the email, many more email management tools. Also has a web forms, so you can actually generate web forms that will update Act automatically. There are services out there that charge $20 just for that piece. So $20 a month gets you all of that. And it gets you a license of Act for Outlook. And it also gives you Notifier Lite, which is basically the full version of Notifier in most cases, except it won't read custom tables. So you get birthday notifications, things like that. So there's quite a bit included in Mail Manager. So however you present it, obviously more is more. It's the main selling point in my mind is opt-in manager.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ken. That was great. And the video should be up by tomorrow sometime, Ken? Tomorrow afternoon?
Yep.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, everyone. And look forward to doing more business with everyone.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks for attending.
Bye-bye.